The Lotus Sutra, Chapter 8, Assurance for the 500 Disciples. At that time, Pūrṇa, son of Maitrāyaṇī, having heard the Buddha preach the Dharma in accord with wisdom, skillful means, and what was appropriate, hearing as well the assurance of supreme awakening for the great disciples, hearing explanations by stories of previous lives, and hearing of the great unrestricted divine powers of the Buddhas, received what he had never had before, and became pure in heart and ecstatic with joy. He immediately got up from his seat, went before the Buddha, and prostrated himself at the Buddha's feet. Then he withdrew to one side, gazed up at the face of the honored one. Without turning his eyes away, even for a moment, he thought, "The world-honored one is very unusual. What he does is very exceptional. According to the natures of the various kinds of beings in this world, with insight and by skillful means, he teaches the Dharma for them and draws them away from their greed and attachments to various things." No words can express the Buddha's blessings. Only the Buddha, the world-honored one, is able to know the natural inclination of our innermost hearts. Then the Buddha said to the monks, "Do you see this Pūrṇa, son of Maitrāyaṇī? I have always declared him to be first among all those who preach the Dharma, and I have always praised his many blessings. He has diligently defended, upheld, and helped to proclaim my Dharma. In the midst of the assembly of the four groups, he has demonstrated and taught it, enriching them and giving them joy. Thoroughly understanding and explaining the true Dharma of the Buddha, he has greatly and abundantly benefited fellow followers of noble practices. Except for the Tathāgata himself, there is no one who is so eloquent at explaining its theories. Do not think that what Pūrṇa is able to defend, uphold, and help to proclaim is only my Dharma. Under 9 billion Buddhas in the past, he has defended, upheld, and helped to proclaim the true Dharma of the Buddhas. Among those who preached the Dharma in those times, he was also the best. He had a clear and thorough understanding of the emptiness of things preached by the Buddhas. He attained the 4 kinds of unobstructed wisdom and has always been able to preach the Dharma clearly, without doubt or perplexity. Though complete in divine bodhisattva powers, he observed noble practices all his life. All the people of those Buddha eras spoke of him as a true Shravaka. Thus, by use of this skillful means, Pūrṇa has abundantly benefited innumerable hundreds of thousands of living beings and transformed innumerable countless numbers of people, leading them toward supreme awakening. In order to purify Buddha lands, he has always done the Buddha's work, teaching and transforming the living. Monks, this Pūrṇa was first among those who preached the Dharma under the 7 Buddhas. Now he is first among those who preach the Dharma under me. Likewise, among those who preach the Dharma under future Buddhas in this present eon of sages, he will be first, and he will defend, uphold, and help to proclaim the Buddha Dharma. Also in the future he will defend, uphold, and help to proclaim the Dharma of an innumerable, unlimited number of Buddhas, teaching, transforming, and abundantly benefiting innumerable living beings, and leading them towards supreme awakening. In order to purify Buddha lands, he will always diligently persevere in teaching the living. Gradually taking up the bodhisattva way, after innumerable countless eons, he will attain supreme awakening in this land. He will be called Dharma Radiance Tathāgata, one worthy of offerings, truly awakened, fully clear in conduct, well gone, understanding the world, unexcelled leader, trainer of men, teacher of heavenly beings and people, Buddha, world-honored one. That Buddha will have a single Buddha land made up of as many 3,000 great thousandfold worlds as there are sands of the Ganges. Its ground will consist of the 7 precious materials, and will be as level as the palm of the hand, free from hills and valleys, ravines and ditches. The land will be filled with terraces and towers made of the 7 precious materials. The palaces of its gods will be nearby in the sky, so that people and gods can meet and be in sight of each other. There will be no evil ways there, and no women. All living beings will be born through transformation and have no sexual passion. Having gained the great divine faculties, their bodies will emit rays of light. They will fly anywhere at will, and their intentions and resolutions will be firm. They will be diligent and wise, all of them golden-colored and adorned with the 32 characteristics. All the living in this land will regularly have 2 foods. One, the food of joy in the Dharma, the other the food of delight in meditation. There will be multitudes of innumerable, countless bodhisattvas, that is, tens of millions of billions of myriads of bodhisattvas, who have attained the great divine faculties and the 4 kinds of unobstructed wisdom, and who have great skill in teaching all kinds of living beings. The number of Shravakas will be beyond counting and calculation, and all will have the 6 divine powers, the 3 kinds of knowledge, and the 8 kinds of liberation. That Buddha land will be adorned and completed with innumerable blessings of this kind. The Buddha's eon will be named Treasure Radiance, and his land named Well Purified. The lifetime of the Buddha will be innumerable, countless eons, and his Dharma will live for a very long time. And after the extinction of that Buddha, stupas of the 7 precious materials will be built throughout the land. At that time, the world-honored one, wanting to say what he meant once again, spoke in verse. Monks, listen carefully. Because they have learned skillful means well, the way followed by children of the Buddha is unthinkably wonderful. Knowing that most delight in lesser teachings and are overawed by great wisdom, bodhisattvas become Shravakas or Pratyeka Buddhas. Using innumerable skillful means, they transform all kinds of beings by proclaiming themselves to be Shravakas, far removed from the Buddha way. They save innumerable beings, enabling them to succeed. Though most people are complacent and lazy, in this way they are finally led to become Buddhas. Keeping their bodhisattva actions as inward secrets, outwardly they appear as Shravakas. They appear to have little desire and to be tired of birth and death, but in truth they are purifying Buddha lands. They show themselves having the 3 poisons and seem to hold wrong views. In this way, my disciples use skillful means to save living beings. If I explained all their varied transformations, those who heard me would be doubtful and perplexed. Now, this Pūrṇa, under hundreds of billions of previous Buddhas, diligently practiced the way, proclaiming and defending their teachings. Seeking unexcelled wisdom, he went to the Buddhas and became a leader among disciples in listening and wisdom. In preaching he was without fear, able to lead everyone to rejoice. He never became weary or tired from helping the Buddhas in their work. Already having the great divine faculties, he acquired the 4 kinds of unobstructed wisdom. Knowing whether the minds of others were keen or dull, he has always preached the pure Dharma. Fluently explaining what these kinds of things mean, he taught hundreds of billions of beings, leading them to dwell in the great vehicle Dharma, and himself purifying Buddha lands. In the future as well, he will make offerings to unquantifiable, innumerable Buddhas, defend and help in proclaiming the true Dharma, and himself purify Buddha lands. Always using skillful means, he will preach the Dharma without fear, saving an incalculable number of beings and enabling them to attain comprehensive wisdom. Making offerings to the Tathāgatas and protecting and embracing the storehouse of the Dharma, he will later become a Buddha, whose name will be Dharma Radiance. His land, named Well Purified, will be made of the 7 precious materials, and his eon will be called Treasure Radiance. His bodhisattvas, a great multitude, innumerable hundreds of millions in number, will fill that land. All having crossed over to the great divine faculties and being endowed with powers of dignity and virtue. Numberless also will be his Shravakas, with the 3 kinds of knowledge, the 8 kinds of liberation, having attained the 4 kinds of unobstructed wisdom. Such will be his community of monks. All the living of that land will be free from sexual passion, born pure through transformation, and adorned with all the features. Joy in the Dharma and delight in meditation will be their food, with no thought of anything else. No women will be there, nor any evil ways. The monk Pūrṇa, fully developed in all blessings, will have this pure land where the wise and the sages abound. Such are the immeasurable things of which I have now only spoken briefly. Then the 1,200 arhats who were mentally free reflected, "We rejoice at having what we never had before. If the world-honored one would assure each of us of becoming Buddhas in the future, as he has the other great disciples, how glad we would be." The Buddha, knowing what was in their minds, said to Mahakāshyapa, "One by one, I will assure each of these 1,200 arhats now before me of their supreme awakening. In this assembly is my great disciple, the monk Kaundinya. After making offerings to 62 thousands of millions of Buddhas, he will become a Buddha named Universal Light Tathāgata, one worthy of offerings, truly awakened, fully clear in conduct, well gone, understanding the world, unexcelled leader, trainer of men, teacher of heavenly beings and people, Buddha, world-honored one. 500 arhats, Uruvilva Kashyapa, Gaya Kashyapa, Nadi Kashyapa, Kalodayin, Udayin, Aniruddha, Revata, Kapina, Bakula, Junda, Svagata, and others will all attain supreme awakening, and all alike will be called Universal Light. At that time, the world-honored one, wanting to say what he meant once again, spoke in verse. The monk Kaundinya will see innumerable Buddhas, and after countless eons have passed, attain impartial, proper awakening. Always radiating great light, and having attained divine powers, his fame will spread in all directions, and he will be respected by all. Because he always teaches the unexcelled way, he will be called Universal Light. His land will be clean and pure, and all its bodhisattvas will be daring. Riding on wonderful towers, All will travel to the lands in the 10 directions with unexcelled offerings to give to the Buddhas of those lands. Having made these offerings, their hearts filled with joy, they will soon return to their own land. Such will be their divine powers. That Buddha's life will be 60,000 eons. His true Dharma will remain for twice his lifetime. The merely formal Dharma, twice that. And when his Dharma comes to an end, human and heavenly beings will mourn. 500 monks, one by one, will become Buddhas, with the same name of universal light. Each will assure his successor, saying, "After my extinction, so-and-so will become a Buddha." The world that he transforms will be like mine of today. The splendid purity of his land and his divine powers, his bodhisattvas and shravakas, his true and merely formal Dharma, and the number of eons of his life will all be as described above. Kashyapa, you now know the future of these 500 who are mentally free. The rest of the Shravakas will also be like them. As for those who are not in this assembly, you have to explain it to them. Then the 500 arhats before the Buddha, having received this assurance, were ecstatic with joy. Immediately they got up from their seats, went before the Buddha, prostrated themselves at the Buddha's feet, repented of their errors, and rebuked themselves, saying, "World-honored one, we always thought we had attained final extinction already. Now we know we were foolish. Why? Because while we were capable of reaching the wisdom of the Tathāgata, we were content with lesser wisdom. World-honored one, it is as if some man went to a good friend's house, got drunk on wine, and fell asleep. Meanwhile, his friend, having to go away on official business, took a priceless jewel, sewed it into the lining of the man's robe as a gift, and left. The man, being drunk and asleep, knew nothing of this. After getting up, he went on his way until he reached some other land. There he had to use much energy and effort, finding food and clothing, undergoing exceedingly great hardship, and making do with whatever he could find. Later his friend happened to meet him and said, "How sad, old friend! Why do you have to do this for the sake of food and clothing? Wanting you to be in comfort and able to satisfy the 5 desires, a long time ago, in such and such a year, month, and day, I sewed a priceless jewel into the lining of your robe. It should still be there. In your ignorance, you are slaving and worrying to keep yourself alive. How dumb! Go and exchange that jewel for whatever you need. Then you can be free to have whatever you wish, and be free from all poverty and want." The Buddha is like this friend. When he was a bodhisattva, he taught us to seek comprehensive wisdom. But we soon forgot, neither knowing nor perceiving. Having obtained the way of the arhat, we supposed we had reached the way to extinction. Finding it hard to make a living, we contented ourselves with whatever we could find. Yet our aspiration for comprehensive wisdom was never lost. And now the world-honored one awakens us and says, "Monks, what you have obtained is not final extinction. For a long time, I had you plant good roots for becoming a Buddha, and using skillful means, showed you the character of nirvana. But you believed it to be the real way to extinction that you had obtained. World-honored one, now we understand that we are really bodhisattvas, assured of attaining supreme awakening. For this reason we are filled with joy, having gained something we never had before. Then Ajnata, Kaundinya, and the others, wanting to restate what they meant, spoke in verse. Having heard the voice of assurance of unexcelled peace and comfort, we rejoice in what we never had before, and pay our respect to the Buddha of incalculable wisdom. Now, before the world-honored one, we repent our faults and errors. Of all the Buddha's immeasurable treasure, we have won only a bit of nirvana. Like ignorant and foolish people, we imagined that was enough. It's like a poor man who arrived at the house of a good friend. Being very rich, the friend served him a great variety of fine foods. Taking a priceless jewel, he sewed it into the lining of the man's robe, making a present to him. And he went away, without saying a word, while the man, sleeping, knew nothing about it. When the man woke up, he travelled to other lands to look for food and clothing to stay alive, having a very difficult time just making a living. Getting by with what little he could get, and not even hoping for something better, he never realized that in the lining of his robe there was a priceless jewel. Later, the friend who gave him the jewel happened to meet this poor man. Sternly rebuking him, he showed him the jewel sewed into the robe. Seeing this jewel, the poor man was filled with a great joy. Being rich in valuables and other goods, he could satisfy the 5 desires. This is how we were too. For long, the world-honored one constantly took pity on us and taught us to cultivate the highest aspiration. But because of our ignorance, we neither perceived nor knew this. Having gained just a little bit of nirvana, we were satisfied and sought no more. Now the Buddha has awakened us, saying, this is not the real way to extinction. Only with the attainment of unexcelled Buddha wisdom is there real extinction. Having heard from the Buddha this assurance of becoming a Buddha and its glories, and how each will give this assurance to his successor, our bodies and minds are now full of joy.